Welcome to Scary Episodes. Or perhaps this is your first time stepping into the dark with us. Either way, you're here now. And in this place, the stories aren't just real-life stories. They don't just unfold, they crawl under your skin. From the endless black of the forest floor to the things that hide in plain sight, settle in. The night is long, and these episodes are only just beginning. Tonight's first episode draws you into the quiet edge of the woods where a single name can echo forever. This is the story of Emily, a girl who vanished years ago, yet somehow still walks the same trails you might take alone at dusk. Listen closely. She doesn't like being forgotten. That was the footage found on Emily Carter's phone, recovered from the edge of Blackwood Forest 3 days after she vanished. No body, no trace, just that video, uploaded anonymously to a dark web forum before it spread like wildfire across YouTube. Viewers called it a hoax at first, but then others started disappearing, and the whispers, they say if you listen closely to the audio, you can hear them. Voices that aren't hers, begging you to come closer. This is the story of what really happened in those woods, not the sanitized version the authorities fed the press, the full, unedited truth. Buckle up, it's going to be a long night. Emily wasn't always the type to chase thrills. She grew up in a sleepy suburb of Seattle, the kind of place where the biggest excitement was the annual block party. But after her parents died in a car accident, drunk driver, wrong place, wrong time, she inherited their life insurance and a burning need to escape. "I need to find myself," she told her friends over coffee, forcing a smile. What she didn't say was that the grief was eating her alive, like a parasite burrowing deeper each day. She found a listing on a budget travel site, a remote cabin in Blackwood Forest, Oregon. Secluded paradise for nature lovers, the ad boasted. Stock photos showed a quaint log cabin nestled among towering pines, a crystal-clear stream babbling nearby. No Wi-Fi, no cell service beyond the driveway, perfect for unplugging. At $200 a week, it was a steal. Emily booked it for a month, packed her Jeep with canned goods, books, and her vlogging gear. She dreamed of starting a YouTube channel, Emily's Escape, chronicling her journey to heal. The drive took 8 hours, winding through rain-slicked highways into the heart of the Cascades. As the sun dipped low, the trees closed in like sentinels, their branches interlocking overhead to form a natural tunnel. Emily rolled her window down, inhaling the pine-scented air. "This is it," she narrated into her phone's camera, her voice bright with forced optimism. "Day one of my new life. No more cubicles, no more fake smiles, just me and the wilderness." The cabin was exactly as advertised. 1 bedroom, a wood-burning stove, porch overlooking a ravine, no neighbors for miles. She unloaded her bags, lit a fire, and settled in with a mug of tea. That first night, sleep came easy, lulled by the rustle of leaves and the distant hoot of an owl. But the second night, the whispers started. It was subtle at first. Emily awoke around 2 a.m., heart pounding from a nightmare she couldn't remember. The fire had died to embers, casting flickering shadows on the walls. She lay there staring at the ceiling when she heard it, a faint murmur like wind through the cracks, but there was no wind. She sat up, straining her ears. Words? No, just nonsense syllables, rising and falling like a distant conversation. "Must be the stream," she muttered, rolling over. But sleep evaded her. By morning, she'd convinced herself it was nothing. Day 3, Emily hiked the trails, phone in hand, filming B-roll of ferns unfurling and mushrooms sprouting from fallen logs. Stock footage gold, lush greens, misty mornings. She edited a quick teaser video on her laptop, but without internet it would have to wait. That afternoon, she found the clearing. It was off the main path, perfect circle of barren earth amid the undergrowth, about 20 feet across. No plants grew there, just packed dirt scarred with odd grooves like claw marks. In the center stood a weathered stone marker, half buried, etched with symbols she didn't recognize, swirls and jagged lines that made her eyes ache. "Cool find," she said to the camera, zooming in. "Looks like ancient, maybe Native American. I'll have to research this when I get back." As she knelt to brush away dirt, a chill wind whipped through the trees, carrying that murmur again, clearer this time. "Come closer." Emily froze. "Hello," she called, spinning around. Nothing but swaying branches. She laughed it off, nerves, isolation playing tricks, but her hands shook as she hiked back. That night, the whispers grew louder. They seeped through the walls, circling the cabin like smoke. Emily bolted the door, checked the windows. "It's just the wind," she whispered. Deep down, she knew better. She grabbed her phone and started recording, the screen illuminating her frightened face. "If anyone's watching this, something's wrong here. I hear voices. They're saying, they're calling my name." She played back the audio. There it was, faint, unmistakable. "Emily, join us." Panic set in. She tried to leave at dawn, but her Jeep wouldn't start. Battery dead? No, the engine turned over, but it sputtered and died. She popped the hood, wires chewed through, like by an animal. But what animal targeted spark plugs? Trapped, she rationed her food and explored the cabin for clues. In the attic, she found an old journal, yellow pages, dated 1892. It belonged to Elias Blackwood, the forest's namesake, a lumber baron who'd built the cabin as a hunting lodge. October 15th, the workers speak of a curse. The natives warned us not to cut the sacred grove. Fool's tales, I thought. But last night, Jenkins vanished. We found his axe embedded in the tree, blood on the blade, and the whispers, they promise riches if we dig deeper.
Emily's blood ran cold. She flipped ahead. Entries grew frantic. Men deserting, shadows moving in the trees, a presence that fed on fear. The last page? It wears their faces. God help me, it's wearing mine now. She slammed the journal shut. Outside, dusk fell early, the sky bruising purple. The whispers returned, a chorus now, overlapping voices, begging, pleading, screaming. Stay with us forever. Emily barricaded herself in the bedroom, phone battery at 20%. She filmed her confession. I shouldn't have come here. The stone in the clearing, it's a marker for something buried, something that doesn't die. Tears streamed down her face. If you find this, don't come looking. Burn the forest down. But curiosity or madness drove her out at midnight. Lantern in hand, she trekked back to the clearing. The ground thrummed under her feet like a heartbeat. She dug with her bare hands, nails splitting until she hit something hard. A wooden box, rotten and splintered. Inside, bones. Human bones, small and fragile. A child's skeleton wrapped in faded cloth, and a note scrawled in blood. The child of the woods. Feed her fear, and she spares you. The whispers exploded into laughter. Emily dropped the box, scrambling back. From the tree line, figures emerged, shadowy silhouettes, faces twisting in the lantern light. They wore the skins of the lost, Elias, the workers, hikers who'd vanished over the years. And at the front, a girl, no older than 10, with eyes like black voids. You found me, The girl whispered, her voice a multitude. "Now play with me." Emily ran. Branches tore at her clothes. Roots tripped her steps. She filmed as she fled, the camera shaking wildly. It's not a curse, it's her, the spirit of a child sacrificed here centuries ago. She lures you in, feeds on your terror, then takes your form. The growl from her video, that was the girl's pets, warped animals twisted by her will, closing in. She made it to the forest's edge, collapsing by the road, but the video cuts off there. Search parties found the phone, but not Emily. Locals whispered she joined the others, her face now worn by the entity waiting for the next wanderer. Weeks later, similar videos surfaced. A hiker in the same woods. I hear her calling. A camper. The whispers know my secrets. Views skyrocketed. Comments flooded in. Fake AF. This is real. My uncle disappeared there in '05. Who's narrating this? Sounds like Emily's voice. Then the disappearances escalated. YouTubers flocked to Blackwood for investigation videos. Most came back with shaky footage of empty clearings and eerie silences, but a few didn't come back at all. One channel, Ghost Hunt Pros, uploaded their final vid before going dark. It starts with them laughing around a campfire. By minute 10, whispers creep in. Minute 15, one member vanishes into the trees. Minute 20, screams, shadows lunging. The last frame, the little girl's face, smiling at the camera. "Subscribe," she whispers, "and come play." Authorities cordoned off the forest, citing wildlife hazards, but drones captured footage, stock-like clips of mist-shrouded trees, abandoned tents, and in the background, if you enhance the audio, voices. Emily's story didn't end with her disappearance. Rumors say she's still out there, her essence trapped, luring more victims. But wait, there's more. Because this isn't just Emily's tale. Dig deeper and you uncover the layers. The child's origins trace back to 17th century settlers. Historical records, grainy scans of old ledgers show Puritan village on the forest's edge. A girl named Abigail, accused of witchcraft after a harsh winter killed the crops. They buried her alive in that clearing, a sacrifice to appease the devil. She didn't die, or rather, she transcended, fed by centuries of fear. Loggers, miners, lost souls. She grew stronger. Stock videos of colonial reenactments could show the trial. Hooded figures, a writhing child dragged to her fate. Flash forward to 1920s. Bootleggers using the cabin as a hideout. Journals from that era describe a wee ghosty whispering temptations, leading them to betray each other in bloody shootouts. Black and white footage recreations, men with Tommy guns, shadows creeping. 1950s, a family vacation gone wrong. The father's diary found moldering in the attic. Sarah says she has a new friend in the woods, a girl who promises toys if she brings us out to play. The family vanished. Newspaper clippings, mystery in the mist, picnic turns to panic. 1990s, eco-activists protesting logging. Their camcorder tapes leaked online. Night vision of tents, then whispers, then chaos. One survivor ranted about the girl who wears faces like masks. And now, the digital age. Emily's video wasn't the first uploaded, it was the spark. Deep web archives hold dozens more, each adding to the mythos. A compilation could show them glitchy footage, terrified faces, that same growl. What makes Blackwood different? Experts, paranormal podcasters, skeptics debate it. Some say it's a tulpa, a thought form manifested from collective fear. Others, a geomagnetic anomaly, amplifying hallucinations. Stock animations could illustrate swirling energy fields, brain scans lighting up. But the truth? It's hungry, and it's evolving. Recent sightings report the girl appearing in mirrors, in reflections on phone screens. Viewers of the videos claim to hear whispers after watching. Just paranoia, they say, until they don't.
If you're still here, hooked since that opening screen, ask yourself, why watch? Morbid curiosity? Thrill-seeking? That's how it starts. Emily wanted escape. You want entertainment. But the whispers, they know what you crave.
You made it through the first shadow, but the night isn't finished with us yet. Our second episode comes from the dense backroads of Michigan, a place where the trees grow too close and something ancient refuses to stay hidden. This is the account of a man who thought he could outrun what he saw. He was wrong. Tonight, the Michigan Dogman followed him home. The creature had watched the man for 3 days before it decided to follow him home. His name was Elias Carver, 34, a former structural engineer who had traded blueprints and deadlines for seasonal forestry contracts in Michigan's Upper Peninsula. He preferred the solitude of the Huron-Manistee National Forests, miles of second-growth pine, forgotten two-tracts, and the kind of quiet that swallowed sound whole. Most locals called the area Up North. Elias called it Escape. He drove in on a Thursday in late October, the kind of gray day where the sky seemed to press directly against the treetops. His truck was a 2008 Ford F-150, rust eating the wheel wells, bed loaded with chainsaw, split firewood, a canvas wall tent, and enough MREs to last 10 days. He parked at the end of an old logging spur off M123, shouldered his pack, and disappeared into the hemlocks without telling anyone exactly where he was going. That was intentional. The first sign came that evening. Elias had set camp in a small clearing beside a sluggish creek. He built a fire ring from river stones, boiled water for coffee, and sat listening to the wind move through the needles like distant surf. Around 7:40 p.m., as full dark settled, the birds stopped, not gradually, abruptly, as though someone had flipped a switch. Then the howl arrived. It began high and keening, almost coyote-like, but the pitch collapsed into something deeper, throatier, ending in a series of wet, choking coughs that sounded disturbingly like human syllables being forced through animal teeth. Elias froze, coffee mug halfway to his lips. He told himself it was a wolf, maybe a disperser pushed south by territory pressure. The DNR insisted wolves were rare this far east, but sightings happened. He even pulled out his phone to record it, though the battery was already at 41% and there was no signal anyway. The howl came again, closer, from the ridge to the northeast. This time it carried his name. Elias. The word stretched, slurred, wet, not a shout, more like someone gargling blood while trying to speak. Elias dropped the mug. Hot coffee hissed toward the coals. He stared into the darkness beyond the firelight, heart hammering against his ribs. Nothing moved. He spent the next hour feeding the fire until it roared, then crawled into the tent with the knife and bear spray beside his sleeping bag. Sleep came in fragments, shallow, feverish dreams of footsteps circling the nylon walls. Morning brought fog so thick the trees looked like ghosts. Elias stepped out to relieve himself and nearly walked straight into the tracts. They began 20 feet from the tent flap, pressed deep into the soft loam where the creek had overflowed its banks weeks earlier.
The prints were enormous, front ones showing 5 long toes tipped with claw marks that had gouged furrows, rear ones almost human in shape but grotesquely elongated at the heel, the arch impossibly high. Bipedal, stride length over 7 feet. Whatever made them had walked upright, paused directly outside the tent, then circled it completely before heading back toward the ridge. He photographed them with shaking hands. He measured one print against his boot. It was nearly twice as long. The claw marks were fresh. Mud still clung wetly to the edges. He should have left then. Instead, he stayed, telling himself he needed proof, something concrete to show the handful of locals who still whispered about the Dogman when the bars closed. He had heard the stories growing up in Marquette, 7-foot canine human hybrids, sighted since the lumber days, blamed for missing hunters, gutted deer strung in trees like warnings. Most people laughed them off as moonshine-fueled tall tales. Elias had always half-believed. Now, belief felt closer to certainty.
That afternoon, he followed the tracks. They led uphill through dense cedar swamp, then onto higher ground, where the pines grew straight and tall. The trail was easy, broken branches at chest height, scuff marks on mossy rocks, the occasional print preserved in sheltered mud. After 2 miles, the tracks veered sharply left and descended into a narrow ravine. Elias hesitated at the lip. The air down there smelled wrong. Wet fur, copper, something faintly sweet like rotting meat. He went anyway. At the bottom, he found the deer, or what remained of it. A mature 8-point buck lay splayed on its back, ribcage pried open like saloon doors. The heart and liver were gone. Intestines had been pulled out and draped across low branches in loop-in garlands. Blood had soaked the ground black, but the kill was fresh. Steam still rose from the body cavity in the cold air. Around the carcass were handprints, not paw prints. Hands, long-fingered, clawed, pressed palm down into the mud, as though the creature had knelt to feed. One perfect impression showed the texture of coarse hair around the wrist. In the center of the carnage sat a single, barefoot, human-like print, almost exactly Elias's size, but with claw divots at the toes. Elias backed away slowly, bile rising in his throat. He turned and climbed out of the ravine as fast as the terrain allowed.
Night 2 arrived colder. Elias doubled the firewood, kept the blaze high, and sat with his back against the thick pine, flashlight in one hand, .44 Magnum in the other. He had brought the revolver mostly for black bears. Now it felt laughably small. At 1:11 a.m., the fire snapped loud. Something answered from the darkness, a low, rolling growl that vibrated through the ground itself. Then the eyes appeared. 2 amber points, low to the ground at first. They rose smoothly as the thing stood, 7.5 feet tall, maybe 8, shoulders broader than any man Elias had ever seen. The silhouette showed a muzzle too short for a bear, ears tall and pointed, moving independently like a German shepherd tracking sound. Fur looked black in the firelight, matted and wet. It did not charge. It simply watched. Elias raised the flashlight beam. The eyes reflected red for a split second before the creature turned its head away, as though the light annoyed it. Then it stepped sideways, deliberate, almost leisurely, and melted back into the trees. The smell lingered long after it was gone. Wet dog, old pennies, something feral and alive. Elias did not sleep again that night. Dawn on the 3rd day found him packing frantically. Tent down, gear stuffed, no breakfast. He hiked out fast, following the 2-track back toward the truck. Every snapped twig made him flinch. Every shadow looked like long legs and pointed ears. He reached the truck at 3:42 p.m., threw everything in the bed, climbed behind the wheel, turned the key. Nothing. The starter clicked once weakly, then silence. Battery
dead. He cursed, popped the hood, checked connections. Everything looked fine. He tried jump-starting from the auxiliary terminals. Still nothing. Then he noticed the roof. Long parallel scratches ran from windshield to tailgate, deep enough to peel paint and gouge the metal underneath. The gouges were fresh, bright aluminum showed through. Claw marks, no mistaking them. Elias sat back inside, doors locked, windows up, heartbeat loud in his ears, phone at 8%, no bars. Night fell early under heavy clouds. At 10:23 p.m., the scratching started. Not aggressive, methodical, claws testing the metal above the driver's door, then moving slowly across the roof. Elias could hear the weight shift, first one side then the other, as though the thing were walking back and forth, deciding. Then it spoke. Elias. The voice came from directly above him, low, wet, amused, the name dragged out into multiple syllables, each one dripping. He screamed without meaning to, slammed his palm on the horn. Nothing happened. The electrical system was completely dead. The creature laughed, a sound like coughing hyenas mixed with drowning gargles. Then it dropped to the ground. Elias heard the thud, felt the truck rock slightly. Footsteps circled once, twice, claws clicked on gravel. Breathing, deep, wet inhalations came close to the passenger window. Elias pressed himself against the opposite door, gun shaking in both hands. The breathing moved away. Silence for perhaps 20 minutes. Then the howl came again, longer this time, rising into a scream that echoed off the ridges for what felt like forever. Elias stayed in the cab until false dawn, muscles cramping, eyes burning. When pale light finally filtered through the trees, he forced himself out. The scratches on the roof looked even worse in daylight, deep enough that rain would leak inside soon. He grabbed the tow strap from the bed, hiked half a mile back along the spur until he found a fallen pine thick enough to winch against. It took 4 hours of swearing, bleeding knuckles, and prayer, but the truck finally coughed to life when he bypassed the main battery entirely. He drove. South on M123, then west toward Newberry, then south again. He did not stop until he reached St. Ignace, where he checked into the first motel with a vacancy, paid cash, and parked under the brightest floodlight he could find. That night he dreamed of amber eyes watching from the tree line behind the parking lot. He woke at 3:17 a.m. to scratching. Not on the door, on the window glass. Slow, single claw dragging down the pane. He did not look. He pulled the curtains tighter, turned every light on, cranked the television volume until the walls vibrated. The scratching stopped eventually. But in the morning, he found 3 long marks on the outside of the glass, deep enough that frost the circus white where the claw had bitten.
He kept driving south. He crossed the Mackinac Bridge at dawn, paid the toll with trembling fingers, and did not stop again until Grayling. Another motel, another night with lights blazing. But howls followed. Not close, not yet, but audible, carried on cold fronts, sweeping down from Canada. Sometimes they sounded like animals, sometimes they sounded like his name, stretched and mangled. 3 weeks later, Elias was living in a cheap efficiency apartment outside Flint. No forest within 30 miles, streetlights, traffic, neighbors. He still woke at 3:17 a.m. most nights. He still checked the windows. Last Tuesday, he found fresh scratches on the fire escape railing outside his third-floor unit. 3 parallel lines, metal curled back like paper. No way anything human could reach that high without a ladder. He has not reported it. Who would believe him? Instead, he keeps the .44 loaded on the nightstand, curtains drawn, lights on dim. He no longer camps. He no longer hikes. He avoids wooded areas after dusk. But sometimes, when the wind is right, he hears it again, distant, patient, amused. Elias.
It knows where he lives now. It followed him home, and it is waiting for the night he finally turns the lights off.
If these episodes left you unsettled, good. That's how you know they're real. If you've lived through something similar, a shadow in the trees, a sound that followed you home, or worse, share it with us. Drop your story in the comments below or DM me directly. The scariest ones might end up in a future episode, and you won't be alone in the dark anymore. If the chills hit you tonight, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. More episodes are coming, whether you want them to or not. Sleep tight if you can. Until next time.